Hi guys, welcome back to this week's vlog. I'm guessing it's been a really stressful week for everyone, so I'm just gonna hop straight into it and get this out of the way. I would have to say one of the most successful aspects of my portrait was the choice to color grade the B-roll and animation clips differently to all the others. I wanted to achieve an almost dreamy aspect to the portrait, highlighting what Andy was saying through some nostalgic clips of himself and other moments I felt followed the theme and flowed well. If anything, it was a little too stylized, but that's what I was going for, so I'm not too upset at all. I'd also like to add the choice to include some stop motion animation clips to further push the storytelling. It was a lot of fun, and I feel worked really effectively. I kind of regret not giving them eyes, though. I don't know what my thought process there was, but editing that was kind of weird. I was like, but it was too late, and I had already done it, and it was just something I had to suck up and move on with. The most problematic aspect of the portrait I found was Andy himself. While my main choice to interview Andy was because he's lived such a unique and interesting life, he kind of talks too much.
As a human, when you look up there and you just think, I'm looking into nothing forever. And then you try and think of, well, what does forever mean? And you're thinking, well, there's no edge. So I can't, and conceptually you have to give up. Because you look into that blackness between the stars and then it starts to freak you out, because you get that there's no edge. And for us as humans, having an edge of the atmosphere and an edge of the planet and an edge of the building and all that stuff.
This also could 100% be my fault because I prompted him to go into detail in his stories and thoughts in order to get, the most honest, unfiltered responses. But due to the amount of detail, I didn't really have as much time to include any of the other questions. While this isn't inherently a bad thing, it kind of takes the portrait from feeling like an interview to more of a story time. And I'm still deciding whether that's a good or bad thing, but it's definitely not on brand with the brief. One of the key discoveries I made in terms of the creative possibilities of producing portraits was the absolute need to make the subject feel comfortable when interviewing them. I was really cautious with this due to last week's readings from Michael Rabinger, where he detailed the ways he goes out of his way to make the interviewee feel more comfortable and get the best unfiltered responses. While I was very prepared and followed these steps, with a few extras I felt would make Andy feel more comfortable just personally, there was a clear shift when I hit record still, and I didn't really know how to combat that. So I decided to take a second and put myself in Andy's shoes, and a really big realization kind of popped up, and it was that prior to the interview, he really didn't have any experience being in front of a camera or just around cameras in general. So to combat this kind of awkwardness, I suggested we just talk for a bit before getting into the important stuff.
$62 it cost me from Burson's off the shelf. And I just laughed when the guy said how much it was. And he said, I know, if that was a VW Touareg or something, it would be $3,062, I have got the other bit, and I have every intention of welding it back on.
While we were talking, I kind of went and over-explained what I was doing and what I was going for, and this alone was really interesting for the B-roll because I found Andy laughs when he's confused, and out of context and muted, it looks very wholesome. One of the clips in the video is one of them, so you can have a look at that and make that decision for yourself. With this newfound comfort, I found Andy's responses were more in-depth and far more story-like, which let room for some cool B-roll shots and animation to add to the storytelling, and I'm really happy how it all turned out. A core lesson I learned during the producing process that I will be looking back to as a media practitioner is the need to trust my own judgment. The videos shown in the portrait were filmed on the first day of shooting. I was tired, I just got off the tram from coming from Melbourne to home, and I was fully convinced that the footage would be better if we had have come back to it a few days later, and just kind of took off where we left off. But I found when we did that, it just kind of felt really unnatural and very jarring almost. And I think in total we had 2.5 hours of footage and 45 minutes of audio recordings, only to have used the first few videos we shot. Moral of the story, I should have just stuck with my gut and just gone with what I thought was right. But the rest of the videos made some really cool B-roll and was just really fun to produce, but ultimately unnecessary. Sticking with my gut would have made my life a lot easier in the editing process. And just overall, I don't know, less is more, something like that. Anyways. It doesn't
you
have
know,
to be poignant.
poignant sort of like Andy, friend of Hilary's mum.
What's the most influential thing someone has told you?
This Chinese lady said to me once, I was talking to her in this nightclub where I used to work, in the toilet, wearing a frilly shirt with a pink bow tie. 6 nights a week, yeah, in the toilet. Posh nightclub, gentlemen's toilets, posh towel by the sinks,
Did you hand out the mints?
Yeah, all of that,
Clean
yeah.
up the lines. I'm
Hit the air thing, the hand dryers, they're trying to... But that was the 80s more than the 70s, really. It was like back into 83, 84 there, after I'd been travelling in America. But what was the point of being in the nightclub?
the lady.
The Chinese lady said to me, "It's simple." She said, "When sitting, just sit." And I thought, that's it, isn't it? Live in the day, And then there's the whole carpe diem concept, isn't there? The whole seize the day thing. So many cultures have gone, yeah, okay, we are humans, we understand tomorrow, but, don't miss today because of thinking about tomorrow or worrying about yesterday. It's all happening right now. Go to the party, you never know. Go out, experiment with that food, I can remember her name because she was in the women's toilet, which was next door in the club. She did the women and I did the men.
Nice.
we'd chat, like when there was no customers or what have you, because we had to loiter around the toilets, which was not my preferred. It's a very posh club, but Shaftesbury Avenue in London, right in the middle of London, right by, where the Eros is, where all the lights are at the bottom of Regent Street, where all the signs were in the 60s. You see, that's where it was, just up the road from there. So right in the middle of, smack in the middle of London town, where I was born.